Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into a really interesting Premier League match from late last season, 2024-25 season.
Yeah, West Ham United versus Nottingham Forest. Played on Sunday, May 18th, 2025 at the London Stadium.
Exactly. And this was match week 37, so, really late in the season.
Absolutely critical, especially for Forest. Their hopes for Champions League qualification were, well, hanging by a thread, really. High stakes.
Definitely the kind of game we love to dig into. We've got the match report, commentary notes, lineups, stats, even quotes from the managers, Graham Potter and Nuno.
Right, so the plan is to go beyond just the scoreline, yeah. Look at why things happen, the key moments, different perspectives.
Spot on. Let's unpack it. The report mentions a really fast start, almost frantic.
Oh, it was. Within, the first 68 seconds? Both keepers forced into action, Sells denied Souček, and then Areola had to save from Gibbs-White almost immediately.
Wow, okay. So both teams came out firing. Forest needing the points, obviously, but West Ham maybe wanting a good final home showing.
Could be, yeah. Shows the intent, doesn't it? But then, just 11 minutes in, Forest got the breakthrough.
Yes, the Areola moment. The report describes it as a misjudgment, a pass to Rodriguez that just didn't have enough on it.
Exactly. And Gibbs-White, he was onto it in a flash, very sharp, slotted it home.
You wonder if Forest were specifically targeting West Ham, trying to play out from the back under Potter. Was that something they'd identified, do you think?
It feels like it, doesn't it? Commentary suggested Forest's press was really intense right from the off. Coordinated. It wouldn't surprise me if disrupting West Ham's buildup was like a key part of Nuno's plan.
Makes sense. And then Gibbs-White's celebration.
Yeah, dedicating it to Taiwo Awani, who just had surgery. That says a lot about the spirit in that Forest camp, especially with so much pressure on them.
It really does. On the West Ham side, though, despite conceding, the report picked out Kufal, said he had a decent first half, created a chance, almost scored himself.
He did seem lively, yeah. Getting forward down the right, maybe trying to offer an outlet, bypass that central press from Forest.
Possibly. But overall, West Ham struggled. You heard the boos at halftime, apparently.
Yeah, the report mentions that. Suggests the home fans weren't happy with what they were seeing, particularly maybe that difficulty playing through Forest.
Okay, so second half, 61 minutes, Forest double their lead. Milenkovic.
That's right, from an Elanga free kick, described as a fortuitous touch in the report.
Fortuitous luck. Or maybe, when a team's pushing hard, they make their own luck sometimes.
Well, there's always a bit of fortune in deflections, isn't there? But Forest were putting pressure on, attacking the ball, that kind of intensity, sometimes it just leads to those breaks going your way.
And then there was that VAR delay afterwards. Communication issues, apparently.
Yeah, that added to the drama. Must have been pretty tense waiting for that decision on the pitch. Those delays can mess with your head a bit.
I bet. So 2-0 down, late in the game, and then bam, Jared Bowen, 86th minute.
Ugh, what a strike. The report called the first touch exquisite and the volley thunderous. Just spectacular.
In a game where West Ham hadn't created much, where does something like that come from? Just pure individual quality.
Often it is, yeah. Players like Bowen, they can just produce magic. Maybe Forrest switched off for a split second, gave him that tiny bit of space.
And he punished them. Goal of the season contender, people were saying.
Definitely in the conversation. It was that good. Even if it didn't change the final result, it was, a moment.
And it set up a crazy finish, didn't it? 16 minutes of added time.
16? That's almost another half of football.
Where did all that come from? The VAR check? Subs?
Yeah, the VAR, substitutions, probably a few other little stoppages, injuries maybe.
Right.
But it created this incredibly nervy end.
Culminating in that save right at the end.
Exactly. Sells denying Füllkrug's header.
Yeah.
Right at the death. A massive, massive save to secure the points for Forest. Huge moment.
Incredible drama. Okay, let's look at the managers. Graham Potter for West Ham, what was his take?
He seemed to focus on the effort being there, the application. But he acknowledged that early error, how costly it was against a team like Forest fighting for the Champions League.
Did he say much about why they struggled tactically? Still trying to play out despite the early mistake?
He hinted maybe at the individual error undermining the plan, and mentioning Forest's motivation, perhaps, suggests he felt that was a big factor in the difference between the sides on the day. The report didn't explicitly quote him on persisting with playing out, but the frustration seemed aimed at the mistake itself.
Right. And Nuno for Forest. Must have been pretty happy.
Oh, absolutely. Very positive. Praised the start, the pressing, scoring a good goal, strong start to the second half too. He mentioned the hard work they put in to pressure West Ham.
And he contrasted it with previous games, suggesting this was a step up.
Yeah, implying maybe they hadn't always shown that level of intensity or execution. But in this game, knowing what was riding on it, they delivered.
And it kept them right in that Champions League hunt, didn't it? Level with City, just behind Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea.
Exactly. Set up that absolutely massive final day clash against Chelsea. Everything to play for.
Whereas for West Ham, the report calls their season uninspiring despite a recent win against Man United. And this was the last home game for Cresswell and Kufal too.
Yeah, quite emotional context there. Departing free agents. You wonder how much that played into the atmosphere or even the players' focus?
Do you think it affected the game? That desire to give them a good send-off versus Forest's sheer desperation for the points?
It's hard to say for sure, but Forest's objective was crystal clear, wasn't it? Keep the CL dream alive. West Ham's motivation might have been a bit more, well, mixed perhaps, wanting to win for the departing guys, but maybe not having that same absolute edge as Forest.
Yeah, possibly. The report really highlights Gibbs-White's role for Forest again. His pressing for that first goal sounds like he was key.
He really does seem central to what they do well. Not just the creativity, but that work rate, the pressing from the front. He sets the tone, disrupts the opposition, looks like a real leader by example.
And tactically, it sounds like West Ham just couldn't find a way through Forest's setup, even trying to play more from the back under Potter.
It seems that way. Forest looked well-organized, disciplined. Nuno had them set up to absorb pressure and deny space, and it worked. West Ham maybe lacked that final bit of spark or creativity to unlock them, aside from the Bowen goal.
And that attempt to build from the back, it backfired early on.
Yeah, that early mistakes really put them on the back foot against a team that was clearly fired up and ready to capitalize. Costly.
So when we boil it all down, what are the main things to take away from this one game? Seems like it packed a lot in.
I think so. Firstly, it's a classic example of how one individual mistake, like Areola's, can just completely change the dynamic of a high-stakes match.
Definitely. What else?
Secondly, that Gibbs-White celebration for Iwobi, it really speaks to team spirit, doesn't it? That togetherness being crucial when the pressure's on.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And thirdly, just the sheer unpredictability.
Yeah.
The early goal, the response, Bowen's amazing volley, then 16 minutes of added time, the last gasp save. It shows you why we love this league, right? Anything can happen.
Absolutely. And it all feeds into that bigger picture, that race for Europe, which was just unbelievably tight.
So what does this all mean? I mean, looking closely at just one match like this, it kind of gives you a snapshot of the whole season, doesn't it? You see the blend of brilliance, costly errors, high stakes, pressure.
Yeah, and the contrasting emotions. Forest absolutely buzzing, keeping that Champions League hope burning bright.
Right. Versus West Ham, bit flat maybe. Final home game, saying goodbye to key players, and it doesn't quite go to plan. Disappointment there.
It really shows how much is riding on these games, the narratives building around the teams. So thinking about all that, what stood out most to you, the listener, about this match and what it meant?
Yeah. What does this single game, this deep dive, tell us about hope, about pressure, about maybe disappointment too in professional sport? Something to think about as we wrap this one up.